What's going on, guys? For the past 4 years, I've been kayak camping and figuring out what should you bring on a trip. We're going through everything that I'll take on a 1 night, 2 night, 3 night type of kayak camping trip.
Yeah!
Walking around with one eye closed. Laughs of 6, eyes focusing on me. Lukewarm coffee for the road. My car was cold till 59.
And starting right off, we're going to jump into my sleep system. So because that's very important and I absolutely can't afford for my sleep system to get wet, I will keep it inside of a zippered dry backpack. This is the Remote Designs 28-liter dry backpack. So I usually do 2 different types of camping out on the river. First, I'll do a tent camp. That is if I know we're going to be in a place that doesn't have any good spots for hammock camping, or maybe we just have too many guys and there aren't going to be enough tree spots. So for that, I bring my Sierra Designs. It's a 2-person tent, and what I really like about it is that the mosquito net, or like the top, is completely see-through, so you can just, you know, watch the sunrise or the sunset, and it's just a really scenic, durable, but very lightweight tent, and it packs down really small. If I'm doing that, I will bring my big AGNES air pad. I have the wide and long version, just because I'm 6'2", I'm not a huge guy, but I do need that extra length. And then for the sleeping bag, I will pack the TAQUITO 20-degree down sleeping bag by Sierra Design as well. I've camped in that thing down into the 30s, and it's kept me warm. I've never been uncomfortable in it, and it's extraordinarily light. I used to do synthetic type insulation, but now I've switched over to down, just like this down jacket, and the lightness and the compactness is just hard to beat. I used to really think synthetic was the way to go because it's really budget minded, but man, it's just hard to beat down. If I'm going to be doing a hammock camp, I'll bring my Ridge Outdoor Gear hammock. It includes all of your straps, your carabiners, and a mosquito net is attached. It's 11 feet long, and I myself being a tall guy, I like to lay flat, and this does exactly that. I have no desire to switch to any other hammock. And then whenever I hammock camp, I also bring my 20-degree sleeping bag with me. I've never really taken it on a winter camping experience, so I don't have an underquilt for it. But yeah, I'll bring a hammock and a sleeping bag, and that will cover me. I will just bring a cheap pillow from Academy. I like to have a little bit of head support, whether I'm in the hammock or if I'm in a tent, and this does a great job. Kind of moving on to some of the paddling equipment. This is the STOHLQUIST Trekker PFD, and it is amazing. It's the first PFD I ever bought, and it's the only PFD I've really ever bought. So I have right here a small medium. I'm about a 42-inch chest, and this fits me amazingly. I've had it for years. I've taken it to the mountains of North Carolina and the rivers of Texas and everywhere in between, and it's held up. And then as far as paddles go, I will be using, on my river trips, an Aquabound whiskey paddle. This is a fiberglass tip with a carbon fiber shaft. I'm really stoked to get out there and use this paddle on the river because it is beautiful. Really excited. And then for my flatwater adventures, I'm going to be going with a Bending Branches Angler Navigator paddle. And this is the most beautiful paddle I have ever seen. I'm sure you guys will agree too, but this is my flatwater paddle. I don't want to take this out on a river and beat it up, but it's insane how light this thing is. It's made with real wood on the blade, and then on the shaft it is carbon. Just a dream, really. So I'm really looking forward to using these guys. I almost always will bring a cooler, unless you're going on just a really long trip where I bring dehydrated foods, but if I am doing that, I'm bringing my WYLD Gear 20-liter. And what's really cool about this WYLD Gear that differentiates it from other soft coolers that I've used, including Yeti and Arctic and all those. You see this zipper right here? I will put my food in it, and what that does is help keep my food out of the slush of the cooler. So oftentimes as your ice melts, your food and stuff will get soggy or saturated because of that water that's produced, and you don't have to worry about that. So I'll shove all of our food up in there, and then our beverages and other stuff that can get wet down in the bottom. This is kind of an interesting one. So this is a camp chair, and I've used camp chairs for many years now, but now that all these kayaks are going to be including those like lawn chair style, I have just been taking the kayak chair out of the kayak and using that at the campsite. And so what that does is allow me to not have to bring this along. Now, a lot of your touring kayaks or your canoes aren't going to come with a lawn chair style chair like what I'm sitting in right now. And so in that case, you'll want to bring one of these camp chairs. This is off Amazon. It's about 30 bucks, which is half of what you'll find the REI brand. And these things are all manufactured in the same place. It's just REI doubles the price. I do find that the kayak chairs are more comfortable. They don't hug you quite as tight. And if you're lucky, like my Ascend chair, it'll have a cup holder on it. For footwear, I've really only nailed down my cold footwear. And this is an NRS neoprene boot, I think is what it's called. It's a zipper enclosure, and this thing works extremely well for my winter, spring, and kind of like shoulder season kayaking. I haven't nailed down what I want to wear during summers. Chacos just allow my foot to get beat up a little bit too much because we do a lot of hiking here in the Texas rivers that aren't always full of water. But some gentleman sent over a suggestion that Teva has a really good water shoe, so I'm probably gonna check that out. Whenever I'm camping and grilling, the fire always gets really hot and you oftentimes have to use sticks to move it around. So I will bring one of these hot hands, which makes grilling burgers on my grilly put extremely easy. So we always bring a grilling surface and I can just grab it, move it around, or adjust fires. And I took this from my wife and we took it camping. I told her I wasn't gonna get it dirty, and of course, I just got it dirty beyond cleaning. So now it's our camp glove. But I highly recommend bringing one of these with you if you're going to be grilling on an open fire. A Seattle Sports bilge pump. This thing, if you're in a sit-in kayak, this is incredibly important to have. What this does is allow you to pump out water after you've gone through a rapid and your boat looks like a bathtub. So we bring a couple of these for the group on every single trip. In the realm of safety, I will bring my throw bag. I haven't ever had to use it, thankfully, but it's there just in case. In addition to that, I have my medical kit. One thing that has treated me extremely well over the years are these Equinox mesh stuff sacks. They come in several different sizes. I have a couple of the small ones to hold certain items, but I'll put like toiletries and things like that. In this one, I have flashlight, toothbrush, fire starters, knives, external battery for charging GoPros, cameras, cell phones, wet wipes, lighters, and really just a smorgasbord of stuff. But these are so incredibly handy. I bring a large one for trash while we're out on the river. Couldn't go without these. For my headlamp, which is usually in one of those stuff sacks, I have a PETZL ACTIK, and it's okay. It's nothing great. Some of my buddies have brighter ones. I'll probably look to upgrade this in the future, but it works, and I already have it, so I'm just gonna keep it. Unfortunately, we always seem to paddle after dark, so those headlamps come in really handy. This is one of my favorite pieces of gear, and people always trash it because they have these Sawyer water filters that I'm sure are fantastic, but I like the ease of this LifeStraw. You can fill up your Nalgene, put this in there just like a straw, or you can drink straight out of the river. Here in Texas, we're really blessed to have our spring-fed rivers, and there's nothing more naturey than just reaching down in the river and drinking straight from it. So it's really cool. But obviously, if your river's real muddy or like at flood stage, I wouldn't advise filtering. In that case, I'll bring some gallon jugs of water, but honestly, if I can use this, I will, because each gallon is 8 pounds. So if you bring 2 gallons for a couple day trip, that's 16 pounds you could drop. Speaking of Nalgene's, I know Nalgene's are heavy and not an ultralighter's dream, but I will bring probably 2 of these 48-ounce Nalgene's. I'll bring 1 full of fresh water, and I'll use that as a reserve. And then I'll bring this one with fresh water in the beginning, and I'll drink through it. Once I'm out, I'll fill it up with river water and drink from there. I like to have some of the fresh water for making coffee and whatnot. As you guys know, we're a huge fan of making coffee out on the river. I bring a mocha pot, and so what that does is you put your grounds in, close this up, bottom will be filled with water, let it boil, and then it comes out the top. It's a really cool mechanism. I prefer the espresso variety of coffee, and this does a fantastic job out on the river. Now, what I'll pour it into is my stainless steel WYLD gear cup. As you can see, it's got my name on it, which is pretty cool. This is great for making my morning juices, my coffees, everything. In addition to those items, I will bring my saw, which is great for processing firewood. This is really helpful. We make a fire almost every time we go out on the river, unless there's a burn ban, of course, but this just makes splitting logs, getting everything going much more manageable. And here's another interesting item. So I used to use this thing all the time. It is a Pelican case that I would put my phone, wallet, and keys, maybe some other stuff into it, but I don't use it anymore. And the main reason is because my Remote Designs dry bag, I wanted a zipper on the front that's its own compartment. And so now I just put my phone, keys, and wallet and other stuff in here. And then when I zip it up, it's totally waterproof, and I can leave that other Pelican case at home. So that was really intentional about that whenever it came to designing this bag. And it's worked out extremely well. None of my stuff's ever gotten wet inside, so going strong, about a year now. And when it comes to what I wear out on the river, it's usually just a pair of swim trunks. These are Columbia PFGs. I will pair that with my life jacket usually, and of course wear a ton of sunscreen. And then for our colder climates, I'll bring this down jacket. This is the Sierra Designs down jacket, the more beefed up one they make. I believe it's called the Whitney. And it's the lightest jacket I have, but it's the warmest jacket I have. It's really, really cool. And then to bed, I'll usually just wear a pair of boxers, and maybe this if it's super, super cold. I've never had to do that yet, but we do sometimes get into a pickle with those winter camping trips. For the campsite, I will bring a Bluetooth speaker, and this is really for our shorter trips or a trip that I know there's gonna be plenty of water, because these do weigh quite a bit. And I enjoy music, but you can always just play music out of your phone. It is nice to be able to fill up the campsite with a little bit of relaxing music around the campfire, maybe for happy hour or something. So I'll bring this along as a luxury. Getting into my filming gear, I always bring a drone. It is kind of a hassle to launch, but it gets some incredible footage, so I always bring this with me. And then the rest of my camera gear is in this 20-liter roll top by Remote Designs. This is another product that I offer. If you're looking to get some dry bags for your upcoming trips, I highly recommend looking at Remote Designs. Of course, I'm biased, but I know a lot of people have used them, and they have some great things to say about them too. I bring 2 GoPros. This one I will stick in between my chest and the life jacket, and this is kind of like my POV, which you guys will often find me filming in. I'll shoot this in 4K, 60 frames per second. And what's cool about this little doodad is that it can extend barely, but then it's also a tripod. I will have the GoPro Hero 8 Black on the front of the kayak, clipped down, facing backwards towards me. This one I usually have in a higher frame rate because I really enjoy that super slow motion. And then what I'm filming on is the Sony a7 III. And that is my DSLR. That's where you get those nice shallow depth of field shots. It's an absolute beast. I've taken it everywhere. It's brutal. And I'll keep it in one of my dry bags so that I have quick access to it. You gotta bring food. So what I typically estimate is that I'm going to need square meals. So that's gonna be a square meal for breakfast, a square meal for lunch, and a square meal for dinner. And we really put a focus on dinner because you're burning a lot of calories out there on the river. I'll bring another one of these 20-liter roll tops and fill it up completely with food and clothes. And so you don't want to run out of energy. We've had that happen on a couple trips. I almost always bring too much food because you don't want to run out and you want to constantly be taking in calories. And probably most importantly is my kayak. Previous years, I started in a sit-in, the Old Town Vapor 10, and then I went to a hybrid, which was my Ascend H10. And this year, I'm graduating onto something different. It's a secret though. Stay tuned for another video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this pack list. Please let me know if I forgot anything down in the comments. Thank you for tuning in to yet another video. I'll catch y'all on the next one. See ya.